My name is Lise Korsgaard. I'm Head of Communication at Statens Museum for Kunst, SMK. And I'm here to talk about a campaign we did earlier this year investigating topics like interaction and dialogue. But I'll start right here. As communicators in 2013, there are certain things we know. And the reason why we know that has basically to do with the fact that we have realized that the world has changed. Because of globalization, because of digitalization, because of the empowerment of stakeholders, just to mention some of the trends that have changed the scene for communication. In this new world of communication, we know that listening is better than talking, doing is better than viewing, dialogue is better than monologue, and question marks are better than exclamation marks. We also know that we don't own our own brand. Our brand is what our users say it is, and we know that communication in 2013 is not so much about marketing, but much more about finding the people who are already there and asking if we can help them. We know that. What we don't know, seen from my perspective, is what this new way of communicating actually means. What does interaction and dialogue look like? Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that question. But what I'll do here today in this talk is to give you an insight into SMK's investigation of these topics during the last couple of years. So I'll change the scene and enter the world of museums where I come from and where I belong, and where we are also realizing that the world is changing. These years we are talking about a paradigm shift in the field where museums are changing from being monologic to becoming dialogic, which means that museums are changing radically in the way they see themselves and the overall aim of their existence. My director, Carsten Ort, has explained it this way. We are changing from being guards of knowledge to becoming servants of it. And that sounds simple, I guess. The truth is, it isn't. That became clear to us at SMK when we started working on a strategy process around 3 years ago. When we first described the museum strategy, it was formulated like this. Our knowledge about art gives you new perspective. But seeing that sentence in writing, we realized that even though it is true, and even though it describes what we as the National Gallery of Denmark has always had as our center of rotation, the statement didn't really fit. It didn't say much about interaction or dialogue, and it didn't really explain this new role as servants for someone. And that was, of course, a problem. So to try to solve that problem, we decided to start the process all over, but this time with one crucial change. We moved the debate this time from the debate about our vision and our brand from the board of managers, where it had belonged, to a forum that also involved other kind of stakeholders. Our staff, not the least, but also politicians, journalists, colleagues, collaborators, and our visitors, the audience, the people who actually visit the museum. And having these kind of stakeholders on board, the language in the strategy process changed from being focused on our role as a leading national gallery to a new focus in the description of our advantages. What we heard from our users was that SMK is a place to relax and to be enriched, a place where their views are challenged and where their lives are expanded. This is my art, this is my history, said one of our visitors. And one of our colleagues told us that SMK is a place with a wonderful energy and a fighting spirit. Hearing different kind of stakeholders tell us why they think SMK matters and why the museum is an important part of their lives, we as an organization got a boost in our self-confidence. And during this whole process, we learned that the museum is most of all alive when it is experienced by someone, and that this experience is actually our unique selling point. We now say that art sparks new perspectives, and that is the essence of our strategy, which stresses SMK as a curious and connected place that strives to create rigorous dialogues with our audience to explore the significance of art into their lives. So, having said that, we began considering how to transform this new message into concrete communication and a campaign that emphasizes that we as an organization are interested in hearing more about the visitors' experiences with the art, and that we are actually interested in their history. So what we did was to begin developing a campaign based on three realizations, you can say. First of all, we realized that we are not the ones to decide what SMK is and what the museums means for someone. Second, as I said, we are really interested in hearing more about our visitors' experiences with the art and with the museum. And the third realization had to do with this fact that we not necessarily are the best sender of the message in our communication. So, in its concrete form, this meant a campaign based on three rules, you can say. First of all, we don't make conclusions, we ask questions. Second, we invite to dialogue as an integrated part of the campaign. And number three, we encourage people to send out their own messages about SMK. That was what we said. The campaign in itself was very simple in its form. It was made of a lot of words, starting with the letters S, M, and K, followed by a question mark, and this sentence, "What is SMK to you? Give your answer at smk.dk." And from our website, the users were led into a Facebook application where they could make their own SMK words and share it on their timeline on Facebook. This campaign was launched in February this year, and ever since we have, of course, been asked and asked ourselves about the results of the campaign. And since we didn't set up measurable results this time, the answer to that question is primarily qualitative and has most of all to do with three important learnings, I guess you can say. What we learned was, first of all, that you can say we learned much more about the context of our communication, meaning that we now know more about what people are actually saying about SMK and what they're actually thinking about the museum. Second, we learned from some reviews we got on the campaign and from a survey we did on some of the printed material in the campaign that this kind of communication and this kind of campaigning gives a much more vivid and positive perception of the museum. The third lesson is actually the most important, and it has to do with the connection between our strategy and interaction. At SMK, we have experimented with interaction in several kinds of projects over the last 10 years, actually. Projects that are all very good, I guess, and projects that actually deserve their own market talk, I guess you can say. But it wasn't until we integrated our wish for interaction in the museum strategy that we as an organization really understood how serious this idea was and the possibilities it entails. And it was its anchoring in the museum strategy that made it possible for us in the communication department to give interaction and dialogue a concrete form in the external communication and to give question marks a leading role in our campaign. So, what have we actually learned during this investigation of dialogue and interaction and this new way of communication? Basically, we learned that it's in the encounter between the organization and the outside world that we as an organization find our raison d'être. This encounter is therefore crucial, and it deserves a role in the overall strategy. And when the strategy stresses a wish for interaction and a wish for dialogue, the funny thing is that it suddenly seems obvious that the first thing you do as an organization when you communicate must be asking. And when you do that, dialogue is no longer a choice, it becomes a fact. With these words, I'll stop talking. I will thank our partners whom we work with in this campaign, Jane Wentworth Associates from London and Bates from Copenhagen. And I'll of course also thank you for listening. Thank you very much.